When Messi signed with Inter Miami in 2023, everyone said the same thing. This changes everything. This is the moment MLS finally arrives. Ticket prices spiked. Jersey sales broke records. Apple's MLS Season Pass got a massive bump in subscribers. For about a year, it genuinely felt like American soccer was having its moment. But here's the thing I want to talk about today. None of that actually moved MLS closer to competing with the Premier League, La Liga, or Serie A. Not the money, not the ratings bump, not the global attention. Messi is the biggest individual superstar the sport has ever had, and even he can't fix what's actually wrong with MLS's ability to compete with Europe, because the problem was never MLS doesn't have a big enough star. The problem is structural. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly why the Messi effect is temporary, and why the gap between MLS and Europe's top leagues isn't closing. It's actually getting bigger in real dollar terms every single year. Let's get into it. Let's start with the obvious thing people miss. Messi is one player on one team. Inter Miami got a huge bump. Sold-out stadiums, insane merchandise numbers, a Leagues Cup win, a ton of new eyeballs on that specific team. But MLS as a whole is 30 different franchises, and 29 of them didn't sign Messi. Look at the actual league-wide numbers. As of 2025, the Premier League brought in over $7 billion in revenue. MLS, the entire league, all 30 teams combined, around $1.85 billion. That's not one team behind a rival team. That's the whole league behind what one European competition generates by itself. Even wilder, there have been points where the two worst teams in the Premier League, teams that got relegated, meaning they were bad enough to get demoted to a lower division, earned more in TV revenue combined than every single MLS franchise put together. Messi's arrival didn't touch that number. He boosted attendance for Inter Miami specifically and gave MLS a nice ratings spike for a season or two, but league-wide broadcast deals, sponsorship structure, and global TV rights didn't suddenly multiply because one 36-year-old superstar joined one team in Florida. This is the core issue with the Messi will save MLS idea. A superstar can make headlines. He can't rewrite a broadcast contract. He can't add zeros to a league-wide media rights deal that's locked in for years. The financial ceiling of the entire league was set long before he arrived, and it's still set now that he's here. Here's the part a lot of casual fans don't realize, and it's honestly the biggest structural reason MLS can't just spend its way into competing with Europe. Messi or no Messi. In Europe, every club is an independent business. Manchester United, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, separately owned, competing against each other for players, sponsors, and revenue, with basically no ceiling on spending, financial fair play rules aside, but the ceiling is still enormous. That competition between rich owners is exactly what drives European spending through the roof. MLS is not built that way. MLS operates as a single entity. The league itself technically owns the player contracts, and the teams function more like franchises under one central structure, similar to the NFL or NBA. That's why there's a hard salary cap, allocation money, a draft, and the designated player rule, the exact rule that let Inter Miami sign Messi outside the normal cap in the first place. That last part is important. Messi didn't get around the cap because MLS abandoned its financial model. He got around it because the league built a narrow, specific exception for a handful of marquee names per team. Everyone else on that Inter Miami roster, and every other team in the league, is still operating under a hard salary cap in the tens of millions total. Nowhere close to what a mid-table Premier League club spends on wages alone. So even with Messi in the league, no owner, no matter how rich, can just decide to build a genuine super team the way cities or PSG's owners have. The rules don't allow it. That's not a temporary problem that fixes itself with one more superstar signing. That's the architecture of the league itself. Point 3. Talent still flows out of MLS, not into it. 6:30 to 9. Next big point. Who's actually playing in each league, and in which direction the best players are moving. For almost every top young American or Canadian player, the path looks the same. Get good in an academy, get scouted by a European club, and leave as fast as possible. Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Gio Reyna, Folarin Balogun. None of these guys stayed in MLS to develop. They left as teenagers because that's where the real competition and coaching level is. Now look at who Messi's arrival brought with him. More aging global superstars looking for one final chapter. Suarez, Busquets, and before them, guys like Chiellini. That's the pattern MLS has doubled down on, not broken. It's a retirement league for legends at the tail end of their careers, and a feeder league for young prospects heading the other direction into Europe. Compare that to the Premier League, which pulls in players in their absolute prime from every continent on Earth, because it's simultaneously the highest level of competition and the best paycheck. MLS, even with Messi on the marquee, can win on money for one or two specific names per team. It cannot win on money and competitive level at the same time. Europe wins on both, every single time, for every position on the field, not just the DP slots. Point 4. MLS is competing with 3 other major North American leagues just to matter at home. This one isn't about spreadsheets, it's about the sports landscape. MLS actually operates inside. In England, Spain, Germany, Italy, soccer is the sport. It's not fighting football season, basketball season, and baseball season for attention, sponsorship money, or the best young athletes. A talented kid in Manchester or Madrid wants to be a professional footballer because that's the clearest path to being a national hero. In the US and Canada, a talented young athlete has options, and 3 of those options, the NFL, NBA, and MLB, currently offer more money, more fame, and more cultural weight than MLS does. The NBA alone is pulling in over $14 billion a year now. The NFL is over $23 billion. Even with a full-blown Messi moment, soccer is still fighting to be the 4th or 5th most popular sport in its own country, while in most of Europe and South America, it's simply the sport, no contest. So MLS isn't just trying to close a gap with the Premier League globally. It's fighting an entirely separate battle just to be the most relevant sport in its own backyard. Messi being the most famous athlete on the planet for a couple years doesn't change that fight. It just gave MLS a really good highlight reel during it. Quick but important one. In Europe, every single match matters because of promotion and relegation. A bad season doesn't just mean missing the playoffs. It means getting physically demoted to a lower division and losing enormous amounts of TV revenue, sponsorship money, and prestige. That stakes on every matchday pressure is a huge part of what makes European leagues so watchable, even for mid-table teams in March with nothing else on the line. MLS has no promotion or relegation. It's a closed league, like the NFL or NBA. That's a deliberate business decision. It protects the value of existing franchises, which is smart for owners. But it also means there's a whole tier of dramatic, season-defining stakes that simply doesn't exist in MLS. A last-place MLS team in August is just playing out the string. A last-place Premier League team in August is fighting for its financial life. Messi being on the field doesn't recreate that pressure for the other 29 teams. Last point, and this is the one people trip over the most, especially post-Messi. You'll hear MLS is the fastest-growing soccer league in North America, and that's true. But fastest-growing from a small base still leaves you small. If MLS grows 15% a year, off a $1.85 billion base, and the Premier League only grows 5% a year off a $7 billion base. The actual dollar gap between them still gets bigger every year, even though MLS's percentage growth sounds more impressive in a headline. The Messi bump is a great example of this in miniature. It was a real, measurable spike. Attendance, merchandise, streaming subscriptions all jumped. But it was a spike from a small number, applied mostly to one team. It didn't outrun the Premier League's much larger, steadily growing number. You'd need MLS to sustain insane, unprecedented growth for literal decades, while Europe's top leagues simultaneously stall out completely. And there's zero sign of the Premier League, in particular, slowing down. So here's the wrap-up. Messi gave MLS a real, legitimate moment. Bigger crowds, bigger headlines, more eyes on the league than ever before. But he's one player, operating inside a league with a capped financial ceiling, a single-entity structure, a talent pipeline that still exports its best young players to Europe, 3 other major domestic leagues to compete with for attention, and no promotion relegation stakes to raise the intensity across the whole season. None of that is Messi's fault, and none of it means MLS is a bad league. It's better than it's ever been, and the Messi era genuinely was a turning point for attention and investment. But MLS had its best year ever, and MLS is on track to compete with the Premier League or La Liga are 2 completely different claims. The gap in real dollars is still getting bigger every year, Messi or no Messi. MLS's realistic ceiling right now looks a lot more like a well-run version of Liga MX or the Eredivisie than it does the Premier League. And for a league that's only been around since 1996, that's still a genuinely solid outcome. If you disagree, tell me why in the comments. I want to hear the counter-argument. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, like and subscribe. I've got more sports business videos coming. That's it for this one. See you in the next video.